All right, welcome back to Cloud Astronauts. This is Mission 3 on AWS, and we're going to do something a little ambitious. We're going to deploy an application on a service on AWS called Amplify, AWS Amplify. But at the same time, we're going to do that in conjunction with creating a code repository on a service called GitHub, which is totally separate from AWS. We're going to connect the two things, and we're going to make code changes and branches and all sorts of fun stuff, and all in less than 15 minutes. So if you're interested and want to learn about making code changes and how it all works in the real world of modern engineering, this is a simple exercise, really fun, very fast, and we hope you'll learn a whole bunch from it. If you have our manual, check out the mission briefing, and it gives you the basic scenario, which is that you're going to deploy an application for the Mars shuttle and then make a sudden change using a branch of code. It's kind of a cool little problem. To get started, you're going to go ahead and download our MTS application. Take those files, double-click on the index.html page, and you'll get our application locally. Check out the flight tracker. You're already in Mars. How cool is that? But this is the application you're going to go ahead and deploy, and we'll give it a try. On GitHub, what we're going to do is assume you've already created your GitHub account, and we show you how. And now it's time to create a repository on that account. So you click that green button. Then you go create a repository name. We show you how. Go ahead and call it Mars Arrival. And under description, we'll say Mars Arrival with Cloud Astronauts. Something simple and quick. We'll make this repository private on GitHub. And we'll select the Create Repository button. And again, if you haven't created a GitHub account, it's very simple. Our guide shows you how, or you can just go out and Google it and very quickly. Once the repository is created, you're going to select that link for Upload Existing Files. Bring up the material that we just looked at for the MTS application, and you want the Assets folder and all 7 HTML pages. Just going to drag those over and drop them. Very easy, and it's going to start the uploading process. So again, we're out on GitHub. You created an account. Now you're creating a repository, and you're uploading files into that repository. Super simple, very, very quick. And once they're all loaded, you're going to go ahead and select the button at the bottom for committing changes. Once you commit changes, click that link button. It's going to take just a minute to process your files, and you will have created your first repository out on GitHub. Again, the directions for creating an account on GitHub are readily available publicly, and they're in our guide. Now we're going to go ahead and use another tab to open up AWS's Amplify. So type Amplify in the search bar on where you're logged into AWS. You'll come out to the Amplify service. Go ahead and select Get Started. You're going to do Amplify hosting. What you're going to do is connect your web app from GitHub to Amplify on Amazon. So Get Started. You're going to select GitHub. Let's go connect it to the GitHub repository that you just created. And you'll come out to a page where it's going to ask you to authorize access. Now you just have to make sure that it's pointing at the right identity, Cloud Astronauts, it is for us, and select that green button, Authorize AWS Amplify. It's going to redirect you. It's going to take care of it. The process is pretty fast. It's going to ask you to install and authorize AWS Amplify to that repository, and you want it to all repositories. Click the green button. And it takes just a minute, and you've basically connected to a repository branch. So let's select the repository, Cloud Astronauts Mars Arrival. The branch is main, so there's really just one branch right now of code that you created, and you're going to click Next. On the next page, do that checkbox. Allow AWS Amplify to automatically deploy all files hosted in your project root directory. Hit Next, and then you're going to save and deploy. And what's going to happen is very quickly, AWS Amplify is going to start to deploy the code that you loaded up into GitHub, and it's going to deploy it out onto AWS Amplify, which is basically CloudFront, a global distribution network. So you can see it's starting to work here. It's provisioning your static website, the Mars Transit App Shuttle, and we're going to fast forward. It takes about 2 or 3 minutes. There we go. Once it's provisioned, you can go ahead and check to see what the application looks like. And it's going to look like what we did before. Now this is kind of cool. Now you have an application, and that's kind of the basic premise, but we're going to actually get a little ambitious and take this a little bit further. We're going to go out and use the power of GitHub to make some changes. So here's the fun thing we're going to do. We're going to toggle back and forth between GitHub and Amplify to make a code change. You don't have to know code. This is going to be pretty straightforward, but it's going to illustrate the concepts of modern engineering. What we're going to do is make a simple change. We're going to change 2 hours at 1300 to 4 hours at 1500. We're going to show you the process of how that all works, going between GitHub and Amplify. Let's start on the GitHub page. You're back on the GitHub browser. What you're going to do is create a new branch. So you're going to type hotfix1, follow our directions, and create branch. Pretty straightforward. Now you've created a duplicate branch with the same files and folders as you have in your main branch. We're going to do this so that we can test a change before we introduce it to our main branch of code. So once you've created the branch, what's really cool is that you've already connected all your repositories to Amplify. So if you go back to AWS Amplify, you can connect that new branch of code. So you just type connect branch, and it'll show you the new branch. Hit next and save and deploy. And very quickly, you're going to have a second entirely separate new branch deploying to a separate website. So now you'll have both a, let's call it a production main website that's out in the world. And you'll also have a temporary one called Hotfix, which you created and is now provisioning and launching. You'll see that it takes just a couple of minutes. We'll fast forward. Once it's provisioned, you can come out and check the link. And what you'll see is you now have two of the exact same websites, but not for long, because we're going to make a change to that 2 hours at 1300 local time. We're going to make that change, and we're doing a simple scenario. We're going to change it on the temporary website to make sure it works before we change it on the main site that everyone in the world actually sees. Let's go ahead and make a code change. You don't have to be a coder to do this. It's pretty straightforward. Back on GitHub, we're on the hotfix1 branch. We're going to select the index.html file because that's where the changes that we're going to make to that text. Click the little edit crayon button, pencil button, and if you follow directions, you've got to go down to line 76 where the text is located. You're not changing code, you're just changing some text. Pretty straightforward. And here it is. You're going to change 2 to 4 in 4 hours at 1500 local time. Then follow the directions. You go straight down to the bottom and you commit a change. Now you've committed a change. Now what's really cool is because you've already committed the branch back on Amplify, the new change is already starting to, because you committed it, it's already provisioning. It's very automated and it's going out now to provision the new site on the hotfix branch. We'll see what that looks like. There it converts, and now you can go back to the page, the website where you have it, and you'll see very quickly that the change that you made has actually been deployed. And that's kind of what we're trying to do, is test how well it's been deployed. So let's go take a look. And there's the old thing. If you refresh the page, you'll see now it says 4 hours at 1500 hours. Now, the whole point here was just to prove that a change could be made and made safely on the temporary site before you do it on the main site. So now that we've done that, we've demonstrated it, let's go back and make this change to our main site. So on the GitHub page, what you're going to do is change to the main branch, follow the directions, there it is. On the main branch, you're actually going to follow the directions, hit that compare and pull. You're going to create a pull request. You can, update, leave a comment there. We'll say update, and then create a pull request. And you're basically merging the new code on the hotfix site into your main branch, and you're going to confirm the merge. Again, it's all documented in our guide, but you can also follow it here if you don't want to use our guide. And once you've done this step, if you go back to Amplify, you'll see that the main branch, because you committed the change, it's now deploying. So it's taking the new code and deploying it from the GitHub repository out to the main branch of your site that's deployed through Amplify. There we go. In a couple minutes, it'll convert to completed to deployed. And if you go back and refresh your browser on that website, you'll see very quickly that it's now changed there too. How cool is that? So you've got two websites, 2 branches of code, and you've now updated and merged and completed all that. So now what we're going to do is just go back and clean up that temporary branch. We're on hotfix. We want to get rid of that. So you select the delete branch. You've already merged the code back into it. You could always restore it if you needed to, but if you go to the Mars Arrival repository, you'll see you just have a main branch, and that's it, just the one branch. Now we'll go back to Amplify, and we're going to get rid of, since we've deleted the branch, we're going to go ahead and clean this up on Amplify as well. We no longer need the hotfix site, so you click the general setting, scroll to the bottom, follow the directions, and at the very bottom you'll see that you can select the branch that we no longer have, and on the actions drop down, just disconnect the branch, confirm, and now you've disconnected the branch, and you no longer have the branch in GitHub, and you no longer have the branch in Amplify. So we'll go back to the Mars Arrival, and you'll see now that you only have the main branch of code. That's really it. Pretty fast, straightforward. And that illustrates the concept of making a change, making it on a branch, and then merging it later with your main code. Mission accomplished. Let's go ahead and do the cleanup step. It's pretty fast. On Amplify, you've got your Mars Arrival application. You just click back into the Mars Arrival application, and on the Actions dropdown, select Delete App. You have to confirm delete, type delete, and then hit delete. And that very quickly removes your Amplify distribution. There's no longer a website out called main hosted for the world. Amplify is done. Cleanup took about 10 seconds. Now, back on GitHub, go to the settings menu, and we'll scroll to the very bottom to the danger zone where we'll delete our repository. And remember, you have the code in the website. You can always load this back up and create a new repository, so not a big loss. Go ahead and take that. You have to confirm the account and repository, click the red button, and that's really it. You've just cleaned up your GitHub repository. You don't have anything left out there, and you've cleaned up your Amplify web hosting distribution. So cleanup took about 2 minutes, very quick. All right, congratulations, mission 3 accomplished. You did a lot with this mission. You went out and created a GitHub repository on the world's largest code repository service. You connected that repository to AWS Amplify on the Amazon cloud and deployed a static website. Not only that, you created branches of code, you changed things, you merged, you did deployments, all of that in less than 15 minutes. So I hope you had a good time. Come back to Cloud Astronauts. We'll have more missions as we go. We'll explore machine learning. We'll do all sorts of fun stuff. And you can try our materials out on cloudastronauts.com or just come watch our videos. Thank you very much. Welcome back. We hope to see you again soon. Cloud Astronauts, and we are signing off.